Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. Thank you so much for joining us for instant reaction to Tottenham Hotspur going to Stamford Bridge. You know the rest of the story. Copy and paste job for the last how many years? Tottenham losing by 2-0 at Stamford Bridge. You probably didn't need me to tell you that. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify, we're on Audio Boom. We're across a range of different audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And unfortunately, for all you Chelsea fans out there that are watching us, and I know you are, we're also live on YouTube. So go easy on us, please. Delighted to be welcoming back to the show my co-host of a very, very, I would say, painful train over the last 90 minutes plus. Delighted to welcome back Lee McQueen alongside me. Lee, how are you, mate?
You all right, buddy? Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me back on. Looking forward to getting into it with the lads and also obviously the viewers and the listeners. Look, I've been trying to be calm about this game because we go to Stamford Bridge year in, year out in the Premier League, and year out we win. Whether or not it's different players, whether or not it's different managers, whether or not, dare I say, it's even different owners. We have not won, or we do not win at Stamford Bridge away in the Premier League. We just don't do it. It's what we do. It is a mental block. We've got to go over it. I'm not trying to say it's defeatist. Let's just go. But 3 days ago, we were absolutely in euphoria after winning that football match against Leicester City, and we haven't had an opportunity to change anything other than the starting lineup. And I'm sure we'll get into that. And the thing that I'm really disappointed about today is not necessarily the result. Obviously, I'm gutted the result. Don't get me wrong, but it's the fact that we wasn't brave. Conte talks about being brave. To dare is to do is our club's motto. We go to Chelsea and it's literally rinse and repeat from the first leg of the Carabao Cup final. Literally rinse and repeat, and that is disappointing. But in the grand scheme of things, we're halfway through the season finally now for Tottenham Hotspur. We've still got 3-4 games in hand on a lot of teams around us. 36 points, 72 will get you in the top four. And I think we can still do that easily. And we've still got 9 days left of the transfer window. So all you bloodthirsty people out there that need a signing, even though it doesn't strengthen the squad, we've still got time to do all of them things. So look, I'm trying to be positive on an evening that is really annoying because they do it to us all the time. And we just get bantered there. They know it, the players know it, the fans know it. Even the TV media outlets were bantering us earlier. And laughing about how many players that we may or may not need and all that sort of stuff. So look, put it into perspective. We go to Stamford Bridge in the league, we lose. That's what we do. We need to change it. But on the one hand, if we're so far away from Chelsea, then, 2 weeks ago, we lost to them and we lost again today. So I don't think it's a bit of a surprise, really.
No, bit disappointing. Listen, lovely to welcome always guests to the show. We've got returning guest. I could feel his pain before we brought him on. We've got the brilliant presenter Jeff Brazier back on the Last Word on Spurs. Jeff, apologies for bringing you back for this one. How are you?
Yeah, good, Jerry. It's difficult coming on when you've lost the game. It's a disappointing one because it's that club that we can't seem to beat. What is it? 5-0 on aggregate over the 3 games, and we haven't got anywhere near them. We've gifted them goals. Today we've been unlucky, I think, with I don't suppose that anyone out there is going to disagree that Harry Kane's goal should have stood. That was really frustrating, to be honest. And then you can see there's not much you can do about the wonder goal. He couldn't have squeezed it in that top corner anymore if he'd have held it with his hands and put it up there. And then that's where you see the psychological impact that Lee refers to in terms of here we go again, we're at Stamford Bridge and a lapse of concentration from a bread and butter sort of cross. And it's that guy again with another header against us. And it's frustrating.
It absolutely is. Now, also delighted to be given a debut out on the Last Word on Spurs. Isn't it always a time we give a debut out? They're never straightforward. So apologies. We've got the brilliant consultant, interviewer, filmmaker, and also a founder of We Are Big Comms Footy Blacklist. There's a lot of different options in there, Leon. We're delighted to welcome Leon Mann MBE to the Last Word on Spurs. Leon, lovely to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much for the invite on. Big fan of what you're doing, so it's great to be on. And look, it's Chelsea, isn't it? I mean, in my lifetime, I think I've seen us win twice at Stamford Bridge. Once when I was 10 and got my toe broken because I was sat next to a Chelsea fan. And my old man says, "Whatever happens, don't jump up and down, son." And of course, I'm going to jump up and down. Like Lineker's just put the ball in the back of the net. I'm jumping up and down, crack my foot. My gosh, I felt it that day. And then some guy called Dele Alli and some other guy called Christian Eriksen who are in the news at the moment. I remember them dominating Chelsea, and the other time when it was in my adult lifetime when I saw us do well there. But the fact that I am in my 40s and I'm telling you about twice and I can remember the details around it says it all. There's something about that place that is just not good for us, right? So we need to sort that, because actually I thought they were there to be got at today. I watched the game that they played against Brighton, and Brighton are a top class side, don't get me wrong. I looked at their lack of full-backs, wing-backs, and I thought, right, we could have a good go here, because for me it felt like a bit of a free hit, and I know Conte's mindset wouldn't be that way, but lose that game, we're expected to lose it, so go and have a good go. What he set out with from the start, which I'm sure we're going to discuss, really confused me. But I just felt like there's work to do there, but there's also positive signs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kane is back at it. That's the main thing for me. First half against Leicester, that's the first time I really felt Kane is really back at it. And I felt when he got the ball today, and he didn't get it very much, he looked like the old Kane in some way, but he can't play by himself out there.
No, absolutely. Lots of comments saying, let the therapy begin. Well, here we are again. It is therapy time. We enjoyed a winning, we enjoyed an unbeaten run under Conte, but we've gone from it being a real, always lovely, lots of fun, to therapy time. So, Lee, let's start with you. Let's thrash this out, as someone's made in the comments there. Listen, let's be honest about a number of players missing, and we're against top opposition, but a very disappointing performance, I would say, overall. Against the Chelsea side, I think first half we was okay. We were fairly decent. But, I mean, that's 3 games in a month. And as Jeff referred to, the aggregate now, 5-0 against them. No goal scored. How do you reflect on yet another poor, disappointing performance at Stamford Bridge again? Yeah,
I mean, I think you're spot on, lads. And I think if you had the home game under Nuno as well, it's actually 8-0 in aggregate, because we didn't lay a glove on them either, did we? Do you know what I mean? I think we had a half-decent first half on memory at the New Lane. And then I was there actually that day, and then we just crumbled in the second half. So very similar. I mean, I've got the blue book out. I thought I'd get some statistics out tonight. The amount of shots we had on goal today was 6. The amount on target was 3. We had 34% possession, only 320 passes, and our passing accuracy at that was 76%. It was absolutely woeful. But I'll be honest with you guys and listeners and viewers, you go to the first leg, the semi-final at Stamford Bridge, you could not make this stuff up. Shots on target, 2, right? Shots at goal, 5, 36% possession. I think that might have shaded it by 2% difference, 78% passing accuracy. It was just woeful. Both games, very, very similar. Now, I'm trying to take a positive view. I'm actually applauding Antonio Conte tonight, because he's looked at this and he's gone, we need to do something different. You know, the definition, of insanity is keep doing what you're doing, expecting different results. You've got to do something slightly different. So he's gone there. He's changed up the formation. I've got to be honest with you, I was well confused, like Leon. I was like, what is going on here? Like, if Skip's fit enough for the bench and Lucas is fit enough for the bench, and Reguilon was even on the bench, wasn't he, as well? Like, why aren't they playing, right? So very strange. Went with a 4, and I think it got exposed. I mean, it was easy for Chelsea. Let's be brutally honest about it. It was easy for Chelsea. They knew it. Their players knew it. Tuchel knew it. Their fans knew it. So it's a tough one to take. But I think that I'm really happy with where we are in the process. Like, I think Conte is absolute world-class manager, top 5 manager for me in the world. And actually we can see against Leicester and against these other teams, on average, we're having 7-8 shots at target, 27 attempts against Leicester, 21 against Southampton, 26 against Watford. The patterns of play are there. We just can't lay a glove on Chelsea. Is it just a mentality thing, lads? Is it? I don't know. But it's just very, very strange. But what was frustrating is we wasn't brave and we didn't have a go. And I think, if you're going to lose 2-0 and not lay a glove on them, you may as well go and lose 4-0. At least you've, 4-1, for example, and and have a go. But like Jeff said, like, it was a worldie. Like, let's be honest, that goal was a worldie. But
there will be an argument, though, Lee, to give him so much time to get onto his favoured foot. We're gonna. I promise you, we'll come on to the goals. Yeah, we will come on to the goals.
Fair enough. But you know, it was a set of circumstances where, like, all of us in the group, and I'm sure everyone watching the game, was like, you've got to get Tanganga off. He's a red card waiting to happen.
Yeah, and the guy was booked. He was again limited into what he could do.
Yeah, exactly. He started again, obviously, in the second half, but that limited him, and Tanganga couldn't block him, because as soon as he blocks him, he gets a double yellow, and he's sent off, and then that lets him go down. So, yes, it's terribly frustrating. But I think that from an overall perspective, I know today we're talking about the Chelsea-Tottenham game, but from an overall perspective, we're still in a very, very good position. We've got a lot of games in hand. We are taking being on the front foot, taking games to other oppositions. Just think there's a mental block. Even with Conte, I'm not sure it helps Conte coming out and saying they are miles better than us and we can't lay a glove on them. And like Leon said, you know, Brighton, Wolves, you know, we were saying in the green room before, they've all had a go. You know, they've got points. Chelsea are coming to this game, they won in 4 Premier League games. This is a stat for you. I think it was
1 in 11 clean sheets, 1 in 11 clean sheets, 1 win in the last 7.
Yeah, and the last time they lost the last time they didn't win a Premier League game in 5 attempts, they sacked the manager. I mean, you couldn't, as unthinkable. And guess who that was? Di Matteo, and he just won the Champions League. So mental. But you know, Tottenham, Chelsea, of course, they're just going to roll us over and move on. This is exactly
Jeff has come over.
They needed, wasn't it? It was exactly the game they needed.
No, exactly. Unfortunately, it is, isn't it? Always the way. Jeff has come round to you. I mean, Chelsea look back to winning ways, and we come as Spurs crashing back down to earth as per usual. But given the injuries and the absences as well, Jeff, I just wonder. You know, it was always going to be a tough ask to go to Stamford Bridge and win under any circumstances, and it did feel that the Kane disallowed goal was even more significant given the nature of how that came about and the timing of that. But do you buy the line, Jeff, that's another reminder of just how big the gulf is between the two clubs, or is there more to this than meets the eye?
No, I think that there is a massive gulf, actually. I do agree with Conte, and I don't mind him coming out and saying that, even though you're right, it might sort of give the wrong message to the players that are about to play the game. But they are in a different sort of league to us. You look at their bench, our starting 11, like, there is absolutely no doubt about it, but Conte has got the maximum capacity out of 95% of the players in our squad at the moment. So what we're doing is as good as it gets. And I think, you know, that's what, 1 defeat in 10. Like, what an incredible start that is for him. And we should all be really, like, grateful to him for the job that he's done. I'm more sort of worried, if you like, about the lack of transfer activity. And I know, you know, sometimes certain chairmen, certain clubs like to leave it a little bit late. No doubt they're working on a lot. But I think when Conte came in, I was really worried about protecting him and the fact that he probably only took the job because there was going to be money to spend, right? Because he knew he was going to have to improve a lot. And he hasn't yet done that. So I'm worried that that's going to be frustrating him, whether that's going to be sort of putting any kind of strain. I think we all want, collectively, I'm sure, for Conte to feel like he got what he wanted out of the window. And I'm not sure Adama Traore, just as a sole signing with nobody else sort of going out and freeing up some money for the summer potentially, I don't know whether that represents a good window. But in terms of the defeat tonight, I can accept that because I think they are a lot better than us, Chelsea. We are in a group of 5 teams that are ultimately trying to find a level of being, you know, of getting that last Champions League spot. Don't worry about the top 3. They're much better than everybody else. But yeah, that's where, so I can accept it. It's one of those fine margin ones. He's set us up differently tonight with 4 at the back, just trying to again find that key, whatever's missing to be able to beat them generally, not regardless of where we're playing them. And if it wasn't for that refereeing decision, then maybe we would have gone 1-0. Maybe they would have had to have attacked a little more, and we might have been able to have gone on and got a second. But that's there's a lot of ifs in there, and it didn't happen. Basically, you can't give a team 65% of the ball and expect to have as many chances as you need to take care of a team like Chelsea. But yeah, for me, I'm looking at it with 9 days now, and I'm like really hoping that Conte doesn't get the hump, basically, because we haven't done what we said we were going to do for him when he took the job.
Yeah, I think, Lee, you picked up on this. I'm going to come back around you on it. And I mean, I think he's kept his counsel very well up until now, Conte. You know, he's almost earmarking and referencing every point he's made so far since he's joined Tottenham in relation to what he said to the board, how he said it, and it's clear what he's implying. But Leon, we'll come around to you. Conte said after the game that I like what I've seen despite the defeat. The defeat told him a lot. To be an important team, you need important players. And at the moment, we are far away. It takes years. Do you think, Leon, looking at the game itself today and what Conte said after it, do you personally feel like we are years away, like he said there, from getting towards where Chelsea's level is at the moment?
Well, they're the champions of Europe, and we're miles off that, right? So, I mean, we forget they're the champions of Europe because it probably should have been Manchester City, right? Based on the way that they've been playing for a number of years now, and it's So we're miles off that. Let's face it. However, I don't know. There's something, and I don't know. I'm trying to put my finger on why, but I don't feel that negative right now. And I don't feel that negative right now, probably because a little bit of Wednesday, right? Because we played really well on Wednesday in that first half.
We did ever so well, yeah.
And I thought, how are we going to not come out with anything from this game? This is crazy. And then the magic happened. It's almost like the Ajax magic, kind of felt like a few years ago. But then look, you've got Romero, who we've kind of seen a tiny little bit of. Let's face it, and that's kind of our major signing this season to kind of shore things up at the back, or certainly move us forward there. He's coming back, so hopefully we can get him kind of rocking and rolling. That will make a big difference at the back there. Dyer's actually been in good form. He's not always been my favourite player at Spurs, but actually I think he's been doing well. And in terms of the rest of them at the back, I mean, it's a bit of a lottery, isn't it? Let's face it. Sometimes Sanchez turns up and you think, wow, this is the player that we signed all them years ago that we were looking for. And then other times you kind of think, wow, what's going on here? So, and of course, some guy called Son, he's not in our lineup today. So actually, there's a lot of players return. Well, there are key players returning that can help us out massively. And when I look at the way we're playing, we've actually got a way of playing. I'm not going to say I'm mad about it. I'm not going to come on here and lie. I'm not going to say that when I speak to my mates, apologies, I do have mates who support Chelsea, that they're telling me the football's going to be fantastic under Conte. Football's going to be really organised under Conte. Everyone's going to know their role and we're going to have a way of playing. And that was very clear from the first game that we played under Conte at home. The crowd were massively frustrated. They're like, why are you not pressing?
Yep.
We're not playing under Poch anymore, guys. That's gone. We're giving them possession and we're looking to get in behind them. That's the game. That's the Conte game, right? So we're having to change our kind of way of watching Tottenham Hotspur, which is something that the fans are on a journey with. And I just think there are signs there that we're on the cusp of something decent. And I know it's weird to say that off the back of a defeat, but I really genuinely do, because I rate our left wing back, Reg. I think Reg has got something there. I don't think he's a fantastic defender, but in this system, he doesn't have to defend as much in the same way. Right wing back, I think it's going to be really interesting. Traore, I mean, look, he really divides opinion, doesn't he? Let's face it.
He does. Yeah, he does. I promise you, we're going to come on to discussing the Adama dilemma later on. But one thing I do want to pick up on, Leon, as I've got you here, I mean, the comments that I say going ballistic, and again, it's the great thing about this show is there's such diversity amongst what people deem to be a good performance and what they also deem to be, I would say, in terms of, did we go there with the right intent to win the game? I mean, I think, again, the comments earlier on that pouring in for you, people are 100% in agreement in what you've said so far and how you've gone about, justifying the selection and the team. But there's no doubt about it, when you have that decision like Kane go against you, it can change the complexity of the game. But when we picked up on the fact at the start of the show, Brighton, they've played Chelsea twice, they've got results. Wolves, even Everton, they've given Chelsea a really hard time in recent months. We've gone there, we've played them 4 times and haven't even laid a glove on them. It almost feels with Tottenham that we're beaten before kickoff because of the name rather than the players. Is that fair?
There's something there, and of course there's something there. We thought we got over it with the Delhi and Ericsson and Kane, and when that team was just a fantastic team. I mean that was an incredible team that we had. Walker and Rose on form, fullbacks. I mean, like literally, when you look back in time at that team, it was sensational in terms of what it was, what Poch got out of it, and how well that team came together. In terms of today, I mean, I did think that we were going to have a go. I did think we were going to have a go, but maybe that's me not understanding the manager that we have, because I think that's a problem Tottenham Hotspur fans have generally. We turn up, we all kind of got on board. No one turned up to support Spurs thinking we're going to play organised, structured football and win trophies in a particular kind of way. We turned up for the Gazzas, the Linekers, the Ginolas. We turned up for those players. That's why we are Tottenham fans, right? So that's what we want and expect in some way within our teams. And this is a different way of playing football, I believe, in terms of how we're going to go forward if we want to win these trophies. And the thing is, when you're winning, you don't mind if it's a little bit.
You don't. You always forget. You always subliminally forget about the style of football because you're just invested in the result.
I mean, we're all football fans, right? You win the game, we did well, and you look for the positives. You lose the game, everything's a disaster. That's why we feel so strongly about football. That's the thing. But in terms of like turning up, seeing incredible football, I don't know. Look, there's lots of ways to play incredible football. It's just, I think it's a different way and a different mentality. And we've got to invest in this and believe in what he's doing, which I think we do because we're doing quite well. But once we lose 2-3 on the bounce, that's the test of where we're really going to be into what Conte is doing.
Did you want to come in there, Jeff? I could see you.
I was just saying, I think Conte's approach tonight was he was trying to be realistic. He was trying to be effective. It's about winning a game, not necessarily. I don't think we have to approach every game in the same way because opponents will differ. The 11 that we're putting out will differ as well. I think we were looking to concede possession, but as we always do, hit them on the counter and be effective. And sometimes that works and you get the result, and sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes you can try and be, fans might want your side to be braver and to press a little bit higher up the pitch. But, a team like Chelsea can absolutely pop you off the park. Next thing, you're conceding early goals again and you're out of the game because we've experienced that against them really recently. And that will have been the concern tonight. So it's about, maybe conceding a little bit of bravery for a little bit of nous, if you like, and just trying to stay in the game for an hour. And then seeing what can be done in the last 30. And again, because of a great first goal and then a lack of concentration thereafter, because all of a sudden it's like, it's happening again. I think that was the approach. And again, some fans don't accept that. They're like, no, I want it to be, 100% pressed from the word go. But again, coaches sometimes look at it and just think, that's not going to be effective for us tonight. I'm going to play it safe. Given what we've got, and we'll be a bit more conservative and just see if we can stay in the game for as long as possible and go at it later on.
Just very quickly, Jeff, before I come over to Lee, do you buy Jeff that mentality block? We're saying that Chelsea 8, Tottenham over the 4 games, and you look at the fact that many will feel they've taught us a lesson over those 4 games. The winless streak against Chelsea is now up to 11, and the Songa at Wembley in November 2018 is the last time we actually scored a goal against them. The only goal in the last 7 meetings being an own goal. Is it mentality, Jeff? Is it a case when you look at that team, no matter who Chelsea have that 11?
That is just horrendous, isn't it?
Is it the team name, Jeff, more than the players that are there for you?
I think psychology is massive at any level of the game, and even though they get paid whatever they get paid, I still think that you might turn up for work one day and think, Stamford Bridge again. We live in a day and age where, it's all over social media. They'll have been told it by their mates. They'll have talked about it in training, and they'll have a professional approach to going there and getting the job done. But I think that when that goal goes in, I think that's when it's triggered and it's like, here we go again. And such disappointment ultimately that they can't, frustration for the players that they can't seem to get over that hurdle of beating Chelsea generally, but beating Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. And it must be demoralising for him. Must be really disappointing. But at some point, it'll happen under Conte. It'll come good under him, and he'll have his day, I'm sure.
Lee, let's come over to you. I mean, listen, I'm conscious that, again, with a show like this, there'll be many fans that are quite level-headed, pragmatic, and understand this is not going to be the be-all and end-all. But there'll be some fans that will look at that lineup tonight and be ultimately frustrated that we, as Jason McGovern would say on the show, haven't gone on the front foot and showed a more attacking approach. Now, we've seen that, we've seen a Chelsea side that have drawn against, as I've said, Brighton, Wolves and Everton in their last 7 games. Do you think, Lee, when you set up like that, it's almost a containment job to some degree, where ultimately that first goal is key? Because if we get it, we've got the opportunity then to counter-attack the opposition. Whereas, like we've seen with Chelsea, when they get that first goal, as we've seen today, there's very little we can do with what we've got in that team to get back into the game. So was we always on a hide into nothing, Lee, if we go 1-0 down?
Yeah, but I mean, just on your first point about lots of different fans and views and opinions, that's why we love doing these shows. That's why I love sharing mine, because Leon and Jeff have already talked about a different type of approach and how they see the game, and that's and hopefully representing all different fans' views. That's why we love it. So if we were all like just robots and all agreed on absolutely everything and it was just bulk down, it'd be pretty boring, wouldn't it? So from that perspective, I mean, I think the comparisons, obviously they're there with the Wolves and the Brightons and so on and so forth. But the first comparison on them side of things is that they were all at home, like for the recent games that you're talking about. And obviously Chelsea was away. When you go back to Chelsea drawing 1-1 with Brighton, which obviously they did on 29th of December, and Chelsea was 0 at home, Brighton were brilliant. And they scored in the 91st minute, right, to get the draw, but they had more shots on target than them. They had more attempts than Chelsea. So they had the ability, the belief to take it to them. And I can't remember because it's gone now, but one of the people in the comments just said it is a different mentality, like Jeff was saying, but it's a different mentality. Brighton versus Chelsea or Burnley versus Chelsea, yeah, they might get draws, but Tottenham, Chelsea, Tottenham's different. It's different for both sets of fans. They want to smash us. They want to go and smash us. Like Chelsea players might not be bothered about smashing Brighton. Like Ziyech didn't even celebrate the other day. He was celebrating today, though, wasn't he? So there is that extra level of 1% or 2% and that type of stuff. I think like I said at the beginning, I applaud Conte because he's trying something different. He's having a look and saying, okay, I think last time around we set up like this. We went toe to toe with him, 3-4-3 in the first game at the Bridge, and we got schooled, in my opinion, and that would have hurt Conte. A lot of the time when Conte's coming out after defeat, so most people, and Jeff, you'll know this, you interview all the managers, you interview the guy and set the man himself, right? When they come out and he looks forlorn, he's not forlorn because we haven't signed somebody already, like straight away. He's forlorn because he's just lost a football match and he's a winner and he don't like losing. Like, he's the same as us. He don't want to lose a football match. He's like, of course he looks maffed off. I would be really concerned if he wasn't peed off. If he's like, hi, yeah, it was a great game, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. It was bloody awful. And so I'd much rather see that side of him. I think that, so I applaud him for trying to do something different. I think the frustration for me as a football fan is, if you go toe to toe with Chelsea, is it fair to say that we probably get beaten? Yes, like everybody will say that. The lads have already said that as well. But have we got? And maybe this is the question. But have we got enough class on the pitch to at least lay a glove on them? To at least have a go? To at least have a couple of shots on target that tests Kepa? I mean, since Mendy's been out, who's their best goalkeeper, by the way, he's been in the African Cup of Nations, right? We've had Kepa. He's walked in and so. We ain't really tested him. No. I think we had I know we had 3 shots on target day, but 1 decent one. I mean, obviously Kane scored a goal that was ruled off for a foul. And yeah, maybe it was different. But what happens if we awaken beast, when we score and all of a sudden they start attacking and all of a sudden they score 3 goals? That's football, right? Tactically, he made the decision to play them players and put them tactics in place. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. But it's 1 game, not 500 games. As Jeff said, he's coming to the football club. He's won 9 games. He's unbeaten in 9 games, won 6, drawn 3 before today. Yeah, guys, yes, mate.
It's important. I think you're right. It is important to keep perspective. It really, really is. Right, before we go for a break, we're just going to read out some of the listener statements we've had in. Thank you so much. I think we're over 70 questions that come into the last one on Spurs. I mean, actually, we can't read out all 70 because we would be here till midnight, and we didn't promise Jeff or Leon that at all, or Lee McQueen, as much as he loves Last Word on Spurs. So let's take a flavour of what's coming into the show. Dave Clark, we've touched upon this, Dave, and Dave's brought it up here. He says, what is that mental block about going to Stamford Bridge? Should we have made those changes earlier at half-time? I'm sure we'll come on to that in terms of the story of the game. Nicky Highland Spurs, I think, is watching right now. Nicky says, didn't expect much from the game. Still in a great position in the league. With some clear investment now, this could still be a great season. When others are planning in Europe, we still have plenty of time on the training pitch. Back Conte. Nathan Lynch says this squad needs major investing. The likes of Jaffet and Seth should have been off at half-time and should have been replaced adequately. Simon Braddock says, do the panel agree that changing the mentality of this club includes how we go about playing these type of games? Simon, I think, like I say, we've touched upon that briefly. I think there is definitely a need in terms of the mentality. That, as we said, Chelsea, whatever it is, no matter team, when we see that team and that name, it just seems to startle us. And again, it's Tottenham, as Jeff touched upon it earlier. In 20 years...
Before you go to a break, quickly, I just want to have a nice mention to who's becoming one of our best friends here on Last Word on Spurs, Arsenal for life. Weirdly, he's back, or she's back, right? To be fair, and we didn't win today, but did you win today, Arsenal at home?
0-0 to Burnley.
All right. Jog on. It's very strange. Very strange.
Very strange. Cameron Yarder Jr. says, I've said Spurs won't have a proper chance at the top four unless they have additions in January. Nothing has changed my mind. I suspect there'll be lots of Enoch and Levy out chants and banners if fans aren't impressed by the end of this January transfer window. Sperano says, why are we disappointed with that result? The performance and the fact we have lost again to Chelsea is always the case. Let's keep things in perspective. That was our first loss in the league since October. Is what I mean, October. Bearing in mind we're now January, that does feel a while away. Peter says that was on Conte. No need to put the abomination of that team out today. Completely destroyed all the momentum and confidence gathered from Wednesday night. We were all right to slack Levy for a lack of investment, but the team selection is up there with Nuno v's Arsenal. No half-time subs either. Do you know what's again, isn't it? It's so funny, fans and their different opinions. Listen, again, you can't please everybody, and that's the nature of football. But we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. For our watching audience on YouTube, we've got nearly over 600 of you watching us live. Thank you so much for always your support on the back of always a difficult result at Stamford Bridge. We get used to saying that. Let's kick off the second half with you, Jeff, coming over to you. That team, and Jeff, you know this, I know you are on Twitter, and whenever a team selection goes up, I think it's fair to say that there's always disagreements about the team that comes out. But again, today, really no difference. We saw Spurs lining up with a number of injuries beforehand. We knew Emerson Royal was struggling, which is why he came off at half-time at the King Power, and we instead played Ben Davis, Ryan Sessegnon. On the right, we had Jaffet Tanganga with Matt Doherty slightly ahead of him. I could see people already putting there.
Those last three, they're not at the level, right? We know they're not at the level. No. Jaffet's slightly different in that you know that he's going to need time to develop and that he will be a better player inevitably. Doherty, it just doesn't seem at it at all. I don't know whether he really believes whether he's going to be good enough either. And look, there's a few players in there that are just not of the standard. And I think Conte will know that. It adds to the frustration. Picking them, I don't know. Sometimes I think managers pick players and give them minutes effectively to put them in shop windows so that someone during the transfer window goes, "I'll go on and you can do a job for our team." There might be an element of that. Otherwise, I'm not sure. It weren't the strongest 11 that he could have picked. But again, I trust Conte. You got to trust the manager. What do we know? We've all got an opinion because obviously we go along and we support the club. So, but if that's who he thought he needed to put out, then he must have had a very good reason.
That team, just to read it out, so of course, and Eric Dyer was back in the lineup. He took his place next to Ben Davies. Stephen Bergwijn came into the team, of course, following his match-winning display against the Foxes. Again, the headline news beforehand was Dele Alli, Tungi and Ndombele, Lo Celso all missing out on the matchday squad. We had confirmation beforehand that all three had no injuries. So therefore, keep an eye on what is going to happen in that January transfer window. And that team read, coming over to you, Leon, that read Lloris, Tanganga, Sanchez, Dyer, Davis, Doherty, Winks, Højbjerg, Sessegnon, Bergwijn, Kane, with a bench of Galini, Reguilon, Emerson, Roden, White, Skip, Lucas, Hill, Scarlett. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that maybe the lack of quality being as kind as I can to that team. But seeing it, Leon, firsthand, did you honestly believe going to the Bridge we had a chance with that team? Did you back Conte to set up in a way in which Spurs could get a result?
I thought Conte is a genius, apparently. He must know what he's doing. That was my thought. My heart dropped. My heart sank. I thought, what's going on here? But I thought, no, okay. We've got a manager who is really doing bits, has done bits for a long, long time. He must have an idea. He must have a plan. Within the first minute, Lukaku has got a very good chance. And Lukaku didn't have a good game today.
Yeah,
whether that's
absolutely. Yeah, agree.
They've had a chance. So what does that do to the mindset of the players on the pitch when they've set up in a particular way? Right, we're going to keep it tight. We're going to do X, Y, Z. Bang. First minute, Lukaku. All right, look at it again. Half chance. But actually, I thought, wow, okay, this ain't going to work out. I mean, I don't know what was up with Moura in terms of whether he was fit enough or not. Maybe, you guys can enlighten me on that one, because, you wouldn't take Moura out of the team because of defensive reasons, because actually he's one of the hardest working, better defensive players, I believe, in that team. He doesn't lose many headers. He goes into his tackles. He works hard up and down. I've no idea why we've not tried him at right wing back. If that's what we're going to do, we're going to go and spend 25 million on Traoré to get more attacking down the right. Well, we've got a guy there who I believe could do that job pretty well. Maybe it's because what you lose in the middle, because he can actually beat a player. Something not many players in our current team can actually do. They can't actually commit a player. Look, we've had Modric. We've been spoiled with Modric and Dembele right over the years. So we've been massively spoiled by players in those positions who can commit a player, take a player out of the game, make a bit of space for somebody else. That's when you're passing. That's when your Tottenham football works. So when I looked at that team, I did think, okay, this is going to be really interesting. I'm going to sit back, learn, and back it. First minute, there we are.
Yeah.
But that's football, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Lee, let's come over to you. I mean, like Leon said there, I mean, from the very off, we could have easily found ourselves 1-0 down. I mean, there was a VAR check for a potential red card against Matt Doherty that went our way. Just very quickly on this, do you think, Lee, there was a case there Doherty could have gone?
No, not for me. It wasn't. There's no malice in it. I think that he definitely caught him. There's no doubt about it. But these sorts of things look enough, 100 times worse, don't they? When you slow it down in slow motion and stuff like that, it did look like a horrible challenge. But there was no malice in it. He did catch him late, but I don't even think he got booked for that. By the way, I don't even think he even got a yellow card for it. So I think that was the right decision for sure. So yeah, I don't think there was anything in that, Rick, to be fair.
I can see the boys are both shaking their heads. So we'll move on from that incident and talk about one that I think all of us are still perplexed as to what actually came to conclusion of this one. Harry Kane, so he has the ball in the net, but he's adjudged to have been punished. Pushed, should I say. Kane pushing, as we saw, Thiago Silva. I mean, Lee, you can see Conte was furious on the touchline with that. I mean, do we say, is that clever from Thiago Silva in what he's done there? Is that all the in-game match experience that he's had that enables him to do what he does? Yeah. Or is that Spurs, again, not getting a decision against the top four side?
No, I think it's Silva. Thiago Silva was very good there. I'll be honest with you, though, I thought it was a foul. And I know, Jeff, you're probably going to absolutely batter me for that because you were like, what on earth? But that's why I thought it was a foul. And the reason why is because Kane don't need to do that. He does not need to put his hand on him at all. He scores, in my opinion, with Thiago Silva's momentum. He's taking a cross anyway. He does not need to put his hand on him. As soon as Thiago Silva feels a hand on the back of his back, he's going down, and he gives the referee a decision to make. Kane don't touch him. There's no decision to make, and I still think he puts the ball in the back of the net. So, look, referees give decisions for funny things. I think there was another incident in the opposite penalty area with Lukaku, and it didn't go anywhere, so it didn't get given as a foul. But it should have got given as a foul if Kane's was a foul. So there's that inconsistencies there. But I think Kane was making a rod for his own back there. If you don't touch him, it can't be a foul. But so I'm asking the question: why are you touching him? If it weren't a foul, why are you putting your hand out? You don't need that.
I think instinctively, strikers are always using parts of their arm in order to hold players off to create that shooting opportunity. So sometimes it's that forearm. Like on that occasion, it was just one hand. I mean, if it's two hands, then it's a straight free kick, obviously. Because it was the one, and what was interesting, you get quite intricate with this, but Silva was literally completely out of position, if you like. His body shape was wrong, and also he was still heading towards the goal, if you like. So because the hand's touching him and he's going in that direction, there's more chance of it being given. Whereas ordinarily Kane would expect him and his positioning to have been a little bit better, and he would have been heading towards Kane. So that's the difference. And I think if he's heading towards Kane and Kane's holding him off, it's not a push. It's maintaining that.
Like
space.
hands there rather than a push, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's a sort of detail I wouldn't necessarily expect a ref to go. Because of all the training they get, what really upsets me, and you saw a really rubbish pen given in the Liverpool Palace game as well.
Yeah.
And I just wish more refs had played the game, because I think that you understand when ultimately someone is looked to go into a challenge as opposed to avoid one. And, there's a lot about weight distribution and things like that doesn't seem to be understood enough. Why is it so many people can watch these decisions and kind of all come to a very similar conclusion? This ain't even a 50-50, but actually a lot of people on here I've seen popping up saying that it looked like a push and stuff. But I stand by what I'm saying about the fact that what's key is that Silva is heading towards the goal as opposed to towards Kane, in which case it's just a holding off. But yeah, his turn and his finish was great, and you could see with Kane, like he believed wholeheartedly the way he reeled off to celebrate, that he didn't in any shape or form feel that he'd fouled him. But that's his experience. It's the only thing he could do. He realised he was in trouble and just threw himself to the floor. And let's face it, Harry's done that a few times. Just it hurts when it happens to you, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. If you take it in isolation, if you put a camera on Silva in that moment, I mean, it just looks. I understand where you're coming from, Jeff. And Joe, it's one of those where I think it is clever play from Thiago Silva, isn't it, Leon? Coming over to you, no matter what we think, many people think, it's classless diving. It's not even a proper push from Kane. But I think it's one of those where, again, if you reverse it, it's one of our players that are doing it as a defender. You're almost praising it. I mean, where do you sit on it, Leon, for you, the overall situation of that decision?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was interesting that Gary Neville was convinced that was a goal. Convinced, like, no grey area. This is a disgrace. Should be a goal. Go to the studio. Roy Keane, who wasn't a bad player, he's like, right, no chance. That's absolutely a foul, right? So you've got two key people in the game saying, and they've got all the replays, they can watch it back, etc., saying completely two completely different things. I don't know you wouldn't use VAR in that circumstance, as far as I understand the rules. Like, you wouldn't use it for that, and I'll look out for the comments to see if anyone can correct me on that. But it would be interesting if something like that went to VAR, because that's actually something which would be like, well, it would have shaped a different narrative in the game. Who knows what would have happened? I mean, I know Jimmy was suggesting it wouldn't have made a blind bit of difference in that game if Tottenham would have won up, because Chelsea still would have continued playing the way that they did and Spurs the way that they did. But I mean, I guess I thought of it, right, if that's Lukaku on Dyer, how am I feeling about that? If I'm seeing that movement, and there was a movement, and whether that's Kane being slightly off balance because he's running that way or whatever it is, there was a movement that made me think, okay, well, maybe there is something in this push, but I'm not sure. It was just a real interesting one for me. I mean, it'd be interesting. What do Spurs fans think? If that's Lukaku on Dyer,
well, yeah,
are we having a moan up on here?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I just think it's for me. It's one of those decisions that you don't get them at Stamford Bridge, and I'm trying to be. I don't mean to be playing a bias card at all, but I just think those decisions will always seem to favour the home side. In these, people say about Anfield and Old Trafford. That's my personal view on it. Again, I totally agree that the minute you put, I think you said this at the time, the minute you're going to put your hands on a defender, you're always going to run the risk of that being pulled back for a foul. You always are, unfortunately. It's just one of those things. The manager said on this incident, Conte said in the first half, the referee disallowed a goal, and I was very clear with him. It was incredible to see this goal disallowed in England, maybe in Italy 50-50, but not in England. It's incredible. It also annoyed me a lot, the yellow card for Tanganga. Thomas Tuchel said after the game on his Sky interview, I didn't see it when we heard that before live. I thought it was a goal, and I was surprised. I mean, again, it depends what angle you come from on that. I mean, again, so many comments, soft. VAR should maybe be taking a look at that as well. We've seen VAR over the course of the last few weeks really being brought into play now a lot by, again, different fans and the decisions being made. I think all we ask for is consistency with VAR, isn't it? That's all we want is consistency, Lee.
Just quickly coming in, sorry, Jeff, just quickly. I think we just proved just by having that quick debate for 5 minutes that even if there was VAR having a look at it, it's not concrete, is it? Because it's subjective and it's opinionated, and Jeff makes some really good points. Actually, swinging my viewpoint on it, I had some good. Leon makes some good points. It's very difficult. If you don't put your hand on him, there's no decision to make. VAR don't need to get involved. The ref don't need to get involved, and Kane still scores. So, in my opinion, but he might have fluffed it. But the momentum of Thiago Silva was going, as Jeff said, that way anyway. So he didn't need to push him or put a hand on him, or he didn't even need to fend him off because he was already past him. He just needed to receive the ball, let Thiago Silva go, see you later, and just do exactly what he did. So it's a shame. And actually, I agree with a lot of Jimmy's comments throughout all the shows that he joins us on in the comments. But I disagree with that. I think that the fact goes in and that counts. That changes the momentum. It's then the belief that clearly we lacked in the second half is already there because we're 1-0 up. Does that make sense? I think you start. Jeff talked about the mentality thing before. I think you start believing more if you've got something to hold on to almost. They're then coming out. All of a sudden, the counter attack comes into play. It does change the game. Goals change games, right? Somebody once said famously.
With 4 fullbacks on the pitch, if you go 1-0 up and you're set up to defend, I think that was the realistic approach to getting something from that game. Anyway, you're not looking to win it 3-0. You obviously settle for 1, and I think he knew that we was going to have to, score first and dig in. But Spursy Vibe just put a comment. This is what I was going to actually say, is when we're talking about players having, arms on people and contact, when you think about corner kicks and the amount of contact that goes on, it's like they're dancing together, like on the dance floor. There's so much, and that's seemingly acceptable. So when you just isolate the fact that it's just Kane and Silva there, then actually that doesn't seem so bad in that example, does it?
No, I agree. I mean, let's come on, as painful as it is, to discuss the goals. Leon, let's come to you. I mean, Ziyech opening the scoring. It depends how you see this. Many people say it's a wonderful strike, but again, for me, I'm on the level that why would you let Ziyech have that much time on his left foot when you know that's his favoured foot? I mean, do you agree that defensively, when Jeff says there about the whole aspect of this game is staying in it, not allowing yourself to go 1-0 down, the goal he gave away, listen, it is a great strike, but for me, it's still defendable. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't know, because, I mean, watching it on the replay, like you can see Sessegnon's got his eyes on Ziyech, but then there's an overlap that I think he's conscious of. That's why he doesn't move. That was my feeling watching it back. I felt like I can't go to. I let him have the shot there as opposed to him tuck this in because I've committed myself. That's what I thought was going through his mind at the time. And look, the shot was just unreal. It was just out of this world. We know that. For me, it just felt like we've done okay here. To get done like that and then get done off we'll talk about the second goal, but was it defendable? I don't know. I kind of just felt like it was just a great strike, and it's far enough out that actually I preferred to have a shot there than actually play it inside and get around me. That was my feeling at the time. What
is it with Chelsea wonder goals against us? What is it? I mean, I go back to Gallas. I mean, we can go back years. The amount of goals, it's just, Adrian there agrees with me on the screen there in terms of the amount of time he had to line it up. I mean, let's come over to you quickly on the first goal, because I know it's painful discussing goals against, especially against this lot. Lee, for you, defendable? Should we be doing more, or do you just take your hat off and say, great strike?
No, I think I agree with Leon on that. Like, I think that where it started was Jaffet down the right-hand side. He came on the second half. He was already on a yellow card. He gets beaten down that right-hand side, and he can't foul the bloke. Was it Hudson-Odoi? I think he done him again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he touches him, he's off, isn't he? That's the problem. He's limited to what he can do.
Him, he's off, so he has to let him go. And then when he lets him go, he can't then foul him, whatever. It's a guaranteed yellow card. So he's gone. So that was the first kind of I suppose, issue. When Ziyech gets the ball, I agree with Leon. There was 2 runners either side, so Cess could have come in and made Ziyech go down his right-hand side, i.e. not on his left foot. But as soon as he's done that, Ziyech just passes to whoever was on the overlap, and that causes us a problem. But look, the strike was an absolute world-class strike. You could not have put that in the top bins anymore. Like, it was literally a perfect strike. It was a wonderful strike, and I don't mind. Look, sometimes you have to put your hands up and just go, "Wow, that was brilliant." Unfortunately for us, it comes so quick in the second half, and then they scored so quick, so fast after that. The first one killed us.
Yeah. We've got a comment on the screen here from 2J says, I'm not upset we lost and we expected it, but it does my head when we underhit and overhit passes for a whole match. Chelsea's passing was immaculate. That's an interesting point. I mean, I'll be honest with you, for me, the game is defined by, that first goal, as you've said, is ultimately key to where this game's going to go. And again, we discussed the second one followed not too long after that. Jeff, to come over to you, free kick floated in from Mount. It touched Silva on the way through typically. I mean, there will be that argument that should have been on the field, but again, we've gone through that already in terms of the opening goal. But did you ever feel, Jeff, at 1-0 or 2-0, was there ever a belief that we could get back into this game, or is it almost trying to, resolve damage from limitation in a way that we don't want this to become a hiding?
Yeah. As soon as that first went in, and by the way, I do think that there was an Aspilicueta an overlap, which meant Sessegnon had to basically he had to deal with that, and he was the closest, and that's what stopped him from getting it. Højbjerg, to be fair, he'd sort of come from a central position. He weren't really ever going to get anywhere near it. But anyway, after that first one goes in, I saw them demoralised, basically. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for you to get your head back and get... How many minutes were there between the goals?
Very good question. What Phil on the screen is saying, it was 8 minutes between the two.
You'd like to think within 8 minutes you'd sort of got your head around the fact that you're 1-0 down and you're just going to have to, find that goal. But yeah, from the cross, it was just... Usually, I think defensively, the way we're set up, we're a much better defensive team now. I think we would have been dealing with these things all day long, but I can't look at it technically or from a coach's point of view and feel like, he wasn't surrounded by Tottenham players. It was, I think, it was an immaculate cross, if you like, in terms of finding.
It's a very hard one to defend, isn't it?
Yeah. Pace, and just, again, two not two lucky goals, but two a perfect finish and a perfect cross that makes that header possible.
Yeah. Boys, let's touch upon the defence. Jeff, I want to stick with you because this player, to be fair, he's had a very tough month, Jeff, at Tanganga. And I am cautious when we do these shows that, again, he's a young kid. He's one of our own. But there's also, people want to hear like a reality perspective. I mean, for me, I think, the guy over the course of the last month, he's been at fault for a lot of Spurs' goals. And I just think sometimes when a player is going through a bad run, just take him out. But the problem Spurs have had, of course, is they've been out without Romero. They've been without Dyer. They haven't got a lot of defensive options there. Do you almost feel for Tanganga in a way that he's continuing to be played despite these errors or lapses of concentration? Or do you back him that this will make him stronger as a player?
It's just that I almost want to go into a parenting philosophy. The only way my kids at 17 and 18 are going to learn is through mistakes. So I know that now. Like, there's all the lectures in the world that you can give them. And I'm sure it's the same with a young footballer, is that the best way for a player to learn and develop is to make mistakes. And sadly, these have happened for us against Chelsea. You'd like to think that it's making him a better, stronger player, teaching him, with the sending off, teaching him when to dive in, when not to, how to be a bit more mature in your reactions to things. Don't let players get in your head, and he'll be a better player at the end of it. But who else are you going to put in instead of him today? I'm not sure what the other option was really. And
I think this is the biggest problem, isn't it, Lee? Coming over to you, that, as I've said before, I know Jason's been on the show and said that he hasn't seen any real improvement from Tanganga since his debut. I don't think he means that as a criticism. He's just being honest from what we've seen with Tanganga. No. For me personally, I think giving him a loan, I think it wouldn't be the worst case in the world, like an AC Milan that were given the opportunity to go and play more at a more relaxed level to be able to get used to the art of defending. I think the Premier League at the moment and the nature of the games he's played, they've all been really, really high demanding games. Playing Chelsea, and we've played them now 3 times in a month. That's a lot for a young player. And the problem with him is he's had mistakes. He's not had the opportunity to come out of the team and just take 5. He's been put back in again and again and again. And we don't want it to ruin the kid because he might become a really, really good player. But what do you think for you, Lee? Would you be in favour of letting him go this window? Or, yeah, where are you on Jeffett?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jeff, completely. I mean, when you're bringing young players through, whether or not they're, in football and business, your own children, whatever it might be, they are going to make mistakes. If that's life. That's how it works. The problem with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club is that we can't afford to have people make mistakes because we haven't got other people that will bail them out, for example, or, we're starved and we're desperate for success to win every game and think that we can go toe to toe with Chelsea and beat them and win, and we're desperate for trophies, that we can't blood in the youngsters and get them to make mistakes. So it is really difficult. When you look at Harry Kane went out on 9 loans, did he? 8 loans, something like that. I mean, he's become world-class striker off the back of it. I absolutely think Jaffet needs to go out on loan. I love seeing one of our own, 2 of our own, 3 of our own. Against Leicester, we had 4 of our own start the football match. I think that's brilliant. Loving Tottenham Hotspur and where they are, and they're growing up through the academy. And I love seeing that. But yeah, he needs to go and get some different experience. He needs to go and get a loan, like Troy Parrott's out on loan. Chelsea, I think, have got 22, 23 players out on loan. Isn't Brazier, for example, a Chelsea player? And he's starting to rip up trees at Southampton and all that stuff. So I think it would be brilliant for him to go and get a loan. If he stays with the squad and playing, this is brilliant experience for him now, and the stuff that he's having to go through.
But it's costing us. It's costing us games. It's costing us. Yeah.
But it's costing us.
It's costing us. And again, this is my biggest worry. That listen, I'm all for coming over to you, Leon. I'm all for giving players a chance. Like Oliver Skipp, for example. Skippy has been, we'll come on to Skipp. He's been brilliant since he's come through this season, especially with Tottenham. He had that loan again. Had a loan with Norwich. Played ever so well. Has come back and done really well. But with Tanganga, I think many people are kind of picking up on the fact that he just doesn't seem to have that composure on the ball. I just wonder if it's almost he's been overplayed over the course of the last couple of months, and whether a loan somewhere fresh might be good for him, or maybe just coming out the team for a while. I mean, what do you think, Leon?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really interesting one with Tanganga, because if you go back to the Manchester City game, he had Raheem Sterling on toast. He set the tone of the team from minute 1. Like, he had Raz off that pitch, bang, right into him, set the tone for the whole game, looked an absolute world beater. And around that time, we were talking about we need a right back, we need to get him out of the club to have a loan, etc., etc. But he played so well in that first game in particular, right? So he earned his right to stay. And I mean, I do think he needs a loan. Loans can go both ways, right? So like Ryan Sessegnon went out on loan, did pretty well out in Germany, has come back, and look, we'll see how he gets on, and we will hope he kind of pushes on. He's had some signs of doing really well, but at the same time, you're kind of not completely convinced. Let's be honest at this point in time. Skippy's gone out and he's come back, and wow, like last year, Højbjerg was unbelievable in my view.
Yep.
This year, I'm looking at it thinking, right, well, I don't know. Do we need both of them in there? Is that how we're going to play? At home against teams bottom half of the table, do we need Højbjerg and Skipp? I think I've learned a bit more about Skipp, because Skipp's got a bit more to his game than just blocking and tackling and what's not. His passing is pretty good going forward. I'm learning more and more about him as I watch him all the time. But coming back to Tanganga, it's like, where do you loan him? Do you loan him to the Championship? Because I think that's way below his level.
I think the only interest really, Leon, has been from what I understand, AC Milan have got a meeting scheduled with Fabio Paratici Monday morning. That they seem to be the club that really seems to be pushing for him at the moment on a loan. I think from what we're hearing, Spurs, though, they would like to have the option there, maybe of an obligation to buy him. So I find that, again, very interesting, how that's going to play out in his next 7 to 8 days of this transfer window.
Yeah, I mean, I'd seen the stories about Milan. I never know what to believe, but I guess, my friends in the in the press know their stuff, and I'm sure the agents are pushing those stories pretty hard to increase the price of the players and the value of the players. But yeah, I mean, if he went to AC Milan, you know, you don't want the obligation to buy, in my view. You want to have him back if he's done well there, because I think playing in that league, if you're going to go to learn how to defend anywhere, you go to Italy, right? So
absolutely.
You're going to go and learn to defend. He goes there. Yeah, you want to have a look and see if you bring him back or not. I mean, I know Chelsea with Tomori, wasn't it? Tomori went up to Milan. They didn't have him back. But I think it would be really interesting to kind of see his development if he goes out to Serie A. Because, you know, there's a really good defender there, and I think we can all see it. But as you're saying, is the time right now for him to be week in, week out for a team that's pushing for Champions League? That's the big question mark.
Yeah, this is key. I mean, again, we will look back at the game, you know, that we saw Skip and Lucas on for Sessegnon and Tanganga. Again, it's easy to say with hindsight that you probably would have wanted that a lot earlier, dependent on fitness. But again, it's very difficult to know the level of what some of these players are at. I mean, Davinson Sanchez, to be fair, again, not close enough to Silva for that second goal. He got turned by Lukaku on, again, a number of occasions during that match. Eric Dyer, of course, back from injury. Coming over to you, Lee. How, you know, again, you've championed Eric Dyer. How big a return, Lee, will Eric Dyer be to that back line for you? Do you think that will massively help us in these coming weeks?
I think so. I think he's been very, very good this season for us. Is he a World Cup winner? Is he gonna go for world record for as a defender? No, I don't think so. But in playing in a back three, I think he's been very, very good. I think he's definitely somebody that Pochettino trusted, Jose Mourinho trusted, Ryan Mason trusted. You know, now Antonio Conte. Going back to Jeff's point earlier, you know, who am I, for example, to question Antonio Conte? Like, he knows what he's doing there, and I think he's been good. What was really interesting about Eric Dyer tonight, though, is that he played him on the right-hand side. And, you know, you look at the two games against Mura, when Davinson Sanchez has played on the left-hand side, the game against Chelsea as well, when Lukaku, when he gave away the free kick for the second own goal, the Carabao Cup. Sanchez playing on the left-hand side of the defence, I think, is a weakness. Although I actually thought he defended pretty well tonight, to be honest with you. Although he lost his man, didn't he, Thiago Silva, for the goal. So I thought that was quite interesting that Dyer coming on the right-hand side and not on the left-hand side. But definitely in a three, Dyer is strong. And, you know, Ben Davies, I know we always have a little joke on the show, you know, 6 out of 10, gentle Ben, but he's done very, very well in a back three. And actually, when you look at Ben Davies, Eric Dyer and Romero as a back three unit, actually having Conte now, having them all back training fully together and really drilling them for the next week, 10 days or whatever, you would hope, and obviously this is a bit of hope, listeners and viewers, obviously, but you would hope that they can start to get a real momentum going. And then Sanchez, I don't think he's done much wrong, to be honest, you know, to drop him out. But I think for me, Romero comes back in. So Dyer's, he will be part of Antonio Conte's definitely his short-term plans. That i.e., he's not going to look to replace Dyer in the next 9 days, is he? Let's be honest.
No. I mean, I think
but it won't be for Dyer. Is what I think.
Yeah, Jeff, let's come over to you. I mean, I think Ben Davies today done what he needed to do. Nothing spectacular, but, you know, safe, I would say, from Ben Davies. Matt Doherty, to be fair, Jeff, you know, he had some praise after that Leicester game, a big beaming smile from you there. I mean, today, really, you'd probably say overall wasn't much in terms of that final end product to his game. Is he a player that, Jeff, you'll still expect to see leave this window? Or would he be a Tottenham player come the end of January 31st?
I would like him to leave. Not obviously anything personal, but I just don't think it's really clicked for him at the club. Saying that, like, for perspective, I don't know whose pass it was, but didn't quite find his run. He made a good run and he could have brought the game back to 2-1. It would have been a fairly straightforward finish. And, you know, we might be sat here thinking, you know, we love the way that he kept sort of pushing on and looking for that opportunity. But, you know, unfortunately, the ball didn't come to him. But, yeah, it's just one of them. I've never really seen anything in a game of football that's made me think he's going to replicate the levels that we saw of him at Wolves. And he just didn't push on, and that's interesting. As sometimes it doesn't happen for players at their new clubs, a club that's perceived to be a bigger club with better players around him. You'd think, but I don't see a massive confidence in him, and so as a result, he might as well try a fresh challenge elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree. Stick with you for a second, Jeff, because I want to get the boys' vantage point on this as well. Ryan Sessegnon. Now, for some reason for me, I've just got this weird feeling that I do believe there's still a player in there. And I don't know why I believe this, but I do. And I just feel in time he'll be better than Reguilon. And I don't know why I say this. I mean, do you share that optimism, Jeff, or am I going absolutely crazy?
I'd like to be reminded of his age, because again, same view in that you don't become a bad player overnight. He was absolutely unreal for Fulham in the Championship. We made a great signing, but again, I don't see a player with the kind of confidence that you'd expect. But I also agree that he's not someone that I want to see go, because I would love to see him come good. And there's absolutely a great player there with that blistering pace. And all I remember to him was all I remember about him at Fulham was that it was unreal at getting to the byline. He's, creating chances for others. But that required a confident player that you're going to beat players. And maybe it's obviously harder for him to do that in the Premier League, but surely he'll get it eventually. He's getting some minutes. And again, it's a similar situation to Jaffet. It's like, he's out on the pitch, he's going to be learning, and hopefully it'll click for him soon, because that'll be good for us.
Yeah, Leon, I want to come on to you about that very quickly on Sessegnon. Listen, he had that one big chance in the first half where he was almost through, I would say, listen, it was an angle really, but it was almost like either a shot or a cross. What do you make of it? I mean, do you think there's a player in there? I mean, because I know, again, the comments here, that word potential, how long can we keep on saying the word, he could be good, he could be great, he could be the next thing? We all want it right now. That's what the feeling is. Can Sessegnon still be that player for us, do you think?
This is where a manager comes into his own, and his backroom team and his staff and people around the club. Because what this kid is missing right now is confidence, right? Because this player that I watched a lot of at Fulham, and remember watching him in the playoff final as well. I mean, Jeff's touched on, his kind of pace and getting to the line, etc. But what struck me about him was his intelligence, his in-game intelligence, his passing. Tom Kearney was having an amazing season for Fulham as well, and the link-up play that they had with Mitrovic, it was just like beautiful football. And he wasn't this athlete; he was more than an athlete. He was doing these. He was just playing in a particular way that really impressed me. So I'm thinking, right, playing him off the left. Okay, that's his position, right? But he was kind of more central at that time in terms of the position he was playing. But he's a player that needs to be confident to be firing. You could say that about every player, right? But some players particularly need to be really, really confident to do what they do effectively and week in, week out. So actually, it's kind of like, how do we get that from who within that coaching staff is the person connecting with Ryan to get squeeze the best from him?
Yeah.
What's the approach to him in a different way that you'd approach a Højbjerg or whoever it would be? All these kind of things I'd be really interested in. Let's face it, unless someone within the squad is going to kind of let us know kind of ways that these players are being managed. That's the thing for me that I think he and Tanganga needs. It's a confidence game. How do we get him to that place? Someone's getting paid a hell of a lot of money to do that. So, let's see how that kind of plays out. But I would absolutely kind of keep trying him, keep playing him. I mean, I like Reg, I think, but to have both of them competing so many games is a very good situation for Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you want to do. You want to have, if you can, ideally have two players for each position. That's what Conte's spoken about as well, to have in the squad. Lee, very quickly on Sessegnon, I want to make that point that we saw, of course, earlier in the season when he got red carded, that we saw Conte put him straight back in the next game. I know, again, it was not a Premier League game which enabled him to do that. But do you think still with this word potential, I can see I'm getting lots of mixed reviews by using that word potential with Sessegnon. Would you still be persistent with him?
Well, you and I said privately, I agree with you. I don't know why. I can't explain it, but I think that there's something he's going to come good. I don't know why. I mean, he's 21 years old. He's 22 in May. So is that, does that make any difference? Like to Wayne Rooney, when we know a world-class player like Wayne, he's burst on the scene at 16. And as Jeff said, Sessegnon was bursting on the scene when he was 17, 18, or, had some really good stuff, as Leon's just said as well. But I got to be honest with you, tonight, I thought he looked like he was running in treacle. He don't look fast anymore. I don't know where the pace is gone. It doesn't look like, I'd love to see him just get the ball and doing a Dharma Traore. Maybe he's probably got a better assist rate and goal rate than a Dharma, and he's been injured for about 3 years. But I'm sure we'll come on to that, Rick. The chance that he had tonight was reminiscent of the ball that he put in the back of the net against Bayern Munich. So when we talk about confidence and we talk about experience for Jaffet and so on and so forth, I don't want to be disrespectful to him, I'm going to call him a kid, but this young man, he's got it. He's got some experience already. He scored a brilliant goal against Bayern Munich, being away in the Allianz Arena, putting the ball in the back of the net and doing things like that for Tottenham. The problem with I feel for Ryan Sessegnon, he's had so many injuries. He's had so many less of, he had a really, really good game. Mo Salah has been the best player on the planet now, certainly if you speak to Liverpool fans, clearly. But, the rest of us as well, of course, he's an amazing player. And Sessegnon defended, earlier this season against him brilliantly. He played really, really well against Salah. So he has got something. And then classic Ryan Sessegnon, straight afterwards, he's injured. And then he's out again for a couple of games. And he's just never really got... Do you agree, lads and listeners and viewers? He's never really got a momentum of 10 games, 11, 12, 13 games on the trot. Right, you're in the team, you're in the team, you're in the team. And, with Reggie there as well, he's not going to, is he? Because Reggie is going to play predominantly, you would think, even if he swaps them out, for different games.
Well, we've seen him. I think every time Reguilon has been available, Conte's picked him. He seems to be one of Conte's favourites.
Even when he went to Hoffenheim on loan, and it was, by all accounts, a decent loan, a move for him at Hoffenheim. Again, he still didn't, he wasn't making loads of assists. He wasn't goal scoring and that type of stuff. And he actually didn't have a huge amount of runner games there either, because I also think he was injured as well. So maybe his injuries around his muscular injuries, his hamstrings and that sort of stuff has gone into his head, thinking I can't burst off. Like Michael Owen, when he was just unplayable with his pace, and then he got them injuries, and hopefully that's not the case for Cess, but maybe that is.
Yeah. Moving on to the midfield, I mean, listen, Harry Winks, he had that opportunity running through space in the opening 15 minutes, sent a shot that was saved by Kepa. He came off with 10 minutes to go. Again, I don't think I could criticise Winks in terms of effort. Maybe, again, the final third, that lacking cutting edge, you might say. Højbjerg, I think it's fair to say he had less of an impact today than what he did against Leicester. I think many felt that Leicester performance was back to maybe the Højbjerg we saw in the first part of the season, which he signed for us. He was really good. Again, today, not so great. I mean, Skippy, of course, he had a knock midweek. He came on, he brought an extra drive and zipped to the midfield. Bergwijn, again, it's interesting. We've had loads of questions on Steven Bergwijn. Jeff, let's come to you. We've got an interesting one here, just in terms of what we do think about Bergwijn long term. I will find the person that's asked this question. They seem to suggest, with regards to Bergwijn, do you think he's much better than just an impact sub or an actual starter, almost like Solskjaer was for United and Johnson was for Chelsea? And that's from Ronnie Kennedy. What's your thoughts on that, Jeff? Just need to unmute you, Jeff. We've got you back on mute.
There we go. Yeah, I heard that Conte believes that Bergwijn would be a more effective support to Kane than Son and Moura. So whether that's, I don't know whether that's like an official source or what. So he obviously sees him in and out of training. For us, we thought that Bergwijn was someone that didn't fulfill his potential and that was on his way out of the club. And then he does what he did against Leicester. And I guess we're all like, oh, actually, he might be a better player than we expected. So today, I guess, was a chance for him, wasn't it? But then against Chelsea, getting his first start for quite a while against a Chelsea side, when again, we know that, they're going to have a lot of the ball and his job's going to be to try and sort of get us up the pitch. That pace is always useful. You always want to preserve that pace in your team. And it'd be interesting. I think if the right offer comes in, then it might be that's taken, because he might be one of the more sellable assets, if you like, that was on the fringe of whether he goes or not. But I'd like to see him more. I'd like to see how he connects with Kane against, our next games are Brighton, Southampton, Wolves. You'd imagine that we'd see a lot more of the ball in those games, and we might see more of his potential. I wanted to see him build on that Leicester performance. It would have upped his confidence no end, but today he didn't really have the opportunity to shine, did he?
It's interesting because I think today when you look at the overall players, now I asked Jeff that question, just to be clear, guys, because it was in from the listeners. I wasn't suggesting that he had a terrible performance today. I think he looked like a player to start with that I thought he looked like he was quite confident. It was his run that did set up the Kane disallowed goal. So again, he did make that difference in the game. Let's come along to you, Leon. For you, Steven Bergwijn. What do you think the future holds for him? Would he be a player that you still would like to keep hold of before the end of this January transfer window?
Well, I mean, it was Nuno who gave him a load of chances, right? Wasn't it? He was playing above ahead of Moura. So Stevie had, a fair few chances there, and I was one of the fans saying I'd prefer to see Moura a bit more involved in that three. And he's had, he had a great debut, didn't he? Obviously, that was a long time ago. Today, I've got to be honest, I thought he did all right when he had the ball. He kind of travelled with the ball well. Let's face it, he didn't have much ahead of him in terms of to play off. So he kind of was pretty much just run it. He was our outlet in many ways. So I thought he did all right when he had the ball today. And he's actually running at players, and that's what he didn't do earlier in the season. You see it a lot with players, and they go back to confidence. They get the ball, they give it, and they run off in a place where they're not going to get the ball back. You see it so much with players, and you can see them compensate for losing that confidence because they normally start working harder the other way. So they start working back. I'm not going to name a Tottenham legend who I saw do that towards the back end of his career, but he lost his confidence and he started working harder the other way as opposed to going that way, doing what he needs to do, and actually, as fans, you're receptive to that because you're like, he's putting a good shift in. When actually, you're not impacting a game. Now Bergwijn is impacting a game for me. He's beginning to do that. I'm not sure what's changed. I'm not sure if someone's had a word with him. I'm not sure if he's playing for a move out of the club and get a couple more quid a week on his wages. But something's definitely changed there for me in the last few games. Obviously, we saw the magic at Leicester, but actually a little bit before that, I think I saw a little bit of a shift in him. And today, I thought, look, in that, I thought he did all right.
I agree.
I mean, look, if he's still with the club against Southampton, that's an interesting one. Against Wolves, that's an interesting one. These games at home, I think, will be really interesting for us, and I think will give us a measure of where we actually are.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Lee, come over to you just to sum up on Bergwijn today. I mean, again, I think if you're looking at the team and who was going to make a difference, I think he would have been one of those players that showed that he was up for making a difference. Thoughts on Steven Bergwijn for you?
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised that we were negotiating with Ajax to sell him. If I'm honest, when you look at the impact that he had when he first came to the football club, we signed him in January, didn't we? A couple of windows ago, in the January window, 27 million. He scored on his debut, didn't he? Man City. And then he had that bad game. He had a couple of good games. He scored against Manchester United, etc. Then he's had some injuries, again, more injuries, bit part player. Then when we played against Liverpool, he should have scored it at the post, and he got a lot of grief. And I think that affected him again. Again, he's a young lad. He's 24 now, but obviously 22, 23 coming into the team. I think that affected him. And let's be honest, right? Viewers, listeners, you all think that you might be strong or whatever. But if somebody's reading stuff, if you're reading stuff about you that is constantly battering you, it's going to take its toll regardless. Even if an elite level sport, if it's at 1% take its toll, you're going to see a drop off in performance and stuff. I think his confidence took a bit down, but I always think there's something there with him. And then obviously what he's done this week, and Conte's coming out, and I agree with Jay actually on the comments. If Conte wants to keep him, then you keep him because that's backing Conte for me. So But interestingly, Nicky Wallace just said something in the comments as well to say, you know, he needs a run of games. But here's the problem, and this is why Paratici and Conte, they all get paid the big bucks, right? Because if you're going to give Bergwijn a run of games, who are you dropping? Because when Son's back and Kane's back and Bergwijn's back and Lucas is there, right? And by the way, we're all sitting there saying we need players, we need squad, we need signings, and I don't disagree with anybody. I am the same. We absolutely need signings, but I've just named 4 players there, and then we're going to sign a Adama Traore, right, to come in as the right wing back or whatever. When is Bergwijn going to play? When is he going to play? Because you're not going to play him right wing back because Adama's coming in. Lucas, Son, and Kane are your front 3. So where is he playing? So, okay,
well, I think Conte said he's the sub. Well, at the moment, he's the sub for Kane, isn't he?
But so therefore, you can't give him a run of games, can you? Because he's not going to play. So this is the problem. And top elite clubs, and Jose Mourinho said this. This is a normal problem for them. Look at Chelsea's bench today. Was it worth? Somebody said it was worth 100 million or billion or whatever it was worth on the bench today. They got the ability to leave Conte, who I still think's like the best central midfielder in world football. You can just leave him on the bench, right? And then they can just bring him on casually, like he just comes in and just shores things up or whatever. And this is a problem for elite clubs, and we want to be in that elite club. We're not there yet, clearly, but we want to be there. So it's a problem that we have to manage. But yeah, I would definitely not be selling Steven Bergwijn to Ajax. I would not be selling him at all, and especially now, not for 50. I think they did 15 million. Like, you're not going to take a lot from that player when he's just done that.
No, I agree. Harry Kane, as we discussed here, Harry Kane had that ball in the back of the net. Again, the judge to push Silva in the box. I mean, listen, he tried to make things happen. I don't think anybody can question Kane's work rate or effort at the moment. I think we're over that now. We've seen goals from Kane. It's just, again, just one of those frustrating days at Stamford Bridge. And how many times have we said that? I mean, we saw Brian Hill replace Winks in the final minutes of that game. Again, Hill, another player that's been linked potentially to a move to Valencia on loan. It's one to maybe keep an eye on. Conte, after the game, said, in this moment, it's very difficult to face this type of squad, not team, because they don't have 11 players. They have 22 or 23 players of an important level. The attitude and effort of my players, I was pleased with, and I'm proud of them. But we lost 3 times to Chelsea in 2 weeks. Maybe there's a difference in level between us and them. It means they're a stronger team and a stronger squad. This club are at another level compared to us. Again, maybe, as we've said, just a hint towards the board. Talk about the board and the squad. We are going to go for our final break of the show. When we come back, we're going to do a quick 5 on where Tottenham Hotspur's January window is at. Right, for our watching us on YouTube, there's still nearly 600 of you watching us live. Thank you so much for all your support. Right, guys, we're going to close the show with a quick chat on Tottenham Hotspur's January transfer window. Now, Jeff, I will start with you. I've got to be honest, Jeff, and think I was going to say, well, I thought, Jeff, at this time when we're seeing you, we would have maybe done a little bit of business in terms of incomings. But firstly, has it surprised you, before we discuss the targets, the lack of incoming so far, or was you expecting this from Tottenham, Paratici and Daniel Levy?
No, because the rest of Europe looks at the fact that we've got Conte, and they know that the premise is that he's going to have something to spend in January, and therefore everyone's asking price goes up as a result. So I think that what typically happens is the business is done a little bit later on when the picture changes for certain clubs. Sometimes they feel like, right, if we're going to act in this transfer window, then we're going to leave it a little bit later, and now we need to, because maybe we've signed someone. That's why you wait to see who signs somebody, and then you wait to see who's surplus to requirements or who you can afford to let go because you've got cover for them. So actually, it's not something to worry about too much. I think we can afford to say that most of your business is done in the last week of the transfer market anyway. So I'm not. I said at the top of the podcast that I would, I'd rather a bit more be done, because we're all waiting on tenterhooks, aren't we, to see that who's going to come in and strengthen our side so that we can get really excited about this push towards top 4. We're just going to have to be a little bit more patient.
Quickly for you, Jeff, just to sum them up, the outgoings at the moment is what's been reported. The likes of Dele Alli, Sunyin Ndombele, Giovanni Lo Celso. Do you expect all 3 of those to move on respectively on loan or permanently?
I have no expectations as a fan. I've no idea what business they're doing, who they're talking to. They're good players. They'll be of interest to a lot of clubs. So, yeah, I want, for them and for the sake of progress, or in the name of progress, it would be good to see some some business done, some players leaving, let them go out and do their thing elsewhere. You just want to see some changes, because if it stays the same, then nothing changes.
Are you of the opinion, Jeff, just very quickly, is Adama Traore, in terms of an incoming, just the one, is that enough based on what Spurs have got in that squad to be able to get top four?
It doesn't guarantee anything, not whatsoever, especially with Wolves creeping up, who have just undercover literally become a really great side that literally don't concede. So, that's, as I say, we're one of 5 teams that are going for that full spot. I've never loved Traore, actually. There's a lot to love about him, but just never. I don't like these flair players that are great at beating players but don't have an end product, because I just think they cancel each other out a little bit. But then he's gone and scored 2 in 2, hasn't he? And all of a sudden he's finding the net when he wants that move, and you're thinking, oh, go on. And again, you're like, right, Conte, what can you do with him? Maybe he brings that player to an extra level. So it's an exciting one. I think a lot of fans at a lot of clubs would be like, I'd love to see what he could do for our team. So it's one of them, a typical Spurs signing that could be hit or miss, but it's worth a go, I think, with him.
It's interesting that Traore, he's the one name that divides so much, I would say, expectation as to what he will do in a Spurs shirt if he does get over the line. Leon, let's come to you. Let's discuss firstly the outgoings to Tottenham. We're seeing heavy links now to Ndombele, Giovanni Lo Celso, Dele Alli, all expected to leave this window. Any surprises there for you, or is that the right for those players to move on, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think Dele needs a move, and good luck to him wherever he goes. He needs a new environment. He needs to be loved. He needs to be first pick, and I have no doubt that in good time we'll see him come back to life and be a brilliant player and probably score against us in the semi-final of the cup or something like that to knock us out. But that's football, right? That's what you got to do. You got to get as much money as you can. I don't know if it can be a loan, but normally everything's a loan at the moment, just because it enables clubs to pay a little bit later or whatever it is. But I think just love Dele as a player, but it just feels like we've tried and tried and tried, and it's just not happening. So maybe it's the time for him to go. But I just really hope he goes on and fulfills the potential, because I can see bags there. And
it's such a shame, isn't it? Again, I don't want to take too much time on it, because I know people are sick of me saying it. I know they're sick of Lee as well saying it's about Dele Alli. That word of how the decline has happened with Dele. It's just been. It is sad. I mean, the word is sad, and I feel like he's fallen out of love with the game. He needs to go back to he needs to go to find a club that will get him loving football again. Maybe that's Newcastle, whoever that is. I hope he can find it, because it's really sad to see that. Leon, very quickly, just on the potential incomings, the likes of Frank Kessie being mentioned and Adama Traore. It obviously seems that one is very, very strong at the moment. If we were to sign those 2 in this window, would you feel confident going into the second half of the season that we're in now, we have got enough for the top 4?
Yeah, it's an interesting one on Kessie, because I spoke to a couple of players who played with him, and their kind of take was, he's a good player, really good player, but is it what Tottenham need? Because for me, I'm like crying out for a creative spark in the middle of the park to unlock things, And again, I talked about how we've been spoiled with Modric and we've been spoiled with Dembele and these players that we've had the joy of watching, but he ain't that. For everyone looking on YouTube and stuff, he ain't that. He's a really incredible player, but it's Højbjerg or Skippy.
It's breaking up plays, isn't it, more than actually creativity-wise?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. He's got a pass and gets forward and stuff, but he's not going to be that creative genius that I think we need. And I think all Tottenham fans seem to come to a consensus that Ndombele was meant to be it. He ain't it for whatever reason. It's not happened. So who's going to be that player for us in the middle of the park to really open it up and get us forward and supply those attacking players that we've got? So it'd be interesting on him. And I was a guest at Brentford yesterday. So when I saw Traore on the bench, I was actually sat next to Scott Sellers, the Wolves sporting director. Obviously, I didn't ask him too much about Traore, or certainly didn't tell me anything anyway, put it that way. But no, when he came on, he came on up front against Brentford, And he caused some problems. And he obviously had that goal, which was disallowed, that he kind of lashed into the back of the net. But yeah, I love the fact that he's disruptive. I love this kind of.
It will create space. I mean, whether people like the end product or not is another question. But what he will do is, I mean, you think with a team that will have Harry Kane and Heung-min Son in there. Listen, again, maybe just he's had Jimenez, of course, and players at Wolves that have been able to put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, we can't get away from the fact the stats are alarming on the Dharma. We can all love. I know, Jeff, like you said, for you, you're not really a massive fan on the pace side of things, but I mean, I look at someone like Aaron Lennon, and again, Leon, you'll know Lennon very well, a player that everyone loved the fact back at the lane where he'd get you off the edge of your seat, and sometimes the end product wasn't great with Lennon. But the pace would almost excite you more than the end product would.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's a little bit unfair to Aaron Lennon, I think. I mean, he used to get to that line and cut back and commit players. I know it's so difficult on this final product thing because, I mean, Christian Eriksen, couldn't get past the first player in a corner, right? But, he's one of the best deliverers of a football in Europe. But it's so frustrating on a corner. So I don't know, it's almost like the Tottenham curse sometimes with some of these players. But look, again, we started this show saying trust Conte, top coach, knows what he's doing, has a strategy. If this is his signing, and look, that's always the thing behind
the key, isn't it? Yeah, of course.
Who's signing this guy?
Yeah.
If it is Conte, then he must have a plan for him. And that plan would have been discussed a lot on the phone with the player himself. They ain't going to bring him in just to hope that it's going to happen. The conversations have been ongoing, and there would be a plan for him to come in and play in a particular position. So if that is going to happen, and I think it is an if, it feels like in the press it's done, but who knows?
It's Tottenham, isn't it? Is it ever done till it's done?
Exactly. I think it'll be interesting. I think he's a disruptor. Bring him off the bench. And look, we're talking about 20 mil, 25 mil. So actually, it's ridiculous. It's monopoly money in football, right? It's like 20, 25 mil. It's like a 5 or 10, right? But him as a disruptor off the bench is really interesting as a worst case scenario. Best case scenario, he plays right wing back and does really well and causes a massive problem down that side. Reg being quick or Cess on that side. I don't know. Maybe I'm dreaming. I think that's the
this is it, isn't it? Leader, come round to you there just to summarise and where we are with this transfer window. I think it feels like it's going to be a massive 7 or 8 days for fans, for the football club. I mean, lots of people are expecting business. Listen, I'm talking as a fan. I'm expecting business as well. I want to see the club improve. I think we all see there's a need to improve. We're going to get into that top 4. And there's an opportunity there. United, for whatever you say about United, they look like they're getting results now slightly underranked, which is a little bit concerning. We need to be in amongst that group. And to do that, we are going to have to improve certain areas. And one, of course, is right wing back. But there'll be people saying, do we need another striker? Do we need a central midfielder? What do you think, Lee, going into these next 7 or 8 days? It feels pivotal for where Spurs' season goes here.
Well, what I think is Leicester City, Brighton Hove Albion, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal, West Ham United, Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, none of them, other than one club, has made a signing so far in this January transfer window. Out of all them clubs I've just talked to you about. So when our Spurs fans go absolutely mad, absolutely mental, I think Wolves is the only club, I might be wrong here, but my blue book's out. Wolves is the only club that have brought someone in, which is why Dharma's coming to us, which is a done deal by all accounts, as everyone can read and see and whatever. So I think that it still means the next 8-9 days are pivotal. I totally agree with you on that. But everyone else is the same. And once one moves and another one moves, and then everything starts to go. Levy can't win. So I've seen so many comments on there, Levy in, Levy out, and Ink out. Levy can't win. He brings in Paratici and says, there you go, you crack on. And then when Paratici brings in Frank Kessie, it'd be Paratici, you're the man, you're amazing. But then when he doesn't land Frank Kessie, because Kessie said, no, I'm waiting till the summer, it'd be Levy, you didn't back the manager. So, you can't win either way on that side of things. I think on Adama Traore, if Conte wants him, go get Adama Traore. That's what I think. Interestingly, one of our own friend of the show, Chris Cowling's show as well, it's running parallel to ours this evening. He'd done a brilliant show with Tom White from Sky Sports earlier this week. And Tom actually revealed that Antonio Conte tried to sign Adama Traore from Middlesbrough before he moved Moses into a wing-back. Now, I didn't know that. I thought that was very, very interesting information, because if that's true, and I'm not suggesting Tom is not telling the truth, of course, but if that information is correct, then clearly they've been an admirer, Conte, Paratici, whatever, been an admirer of Adama for a long, long time. So, you know, that backs it up. Get him in and get him playing if that's who he wants. Personally, I don't fancy him, but, you know, thank goodness for everybody watching and listening that I have nothing to do with managing our fantastic football club. That's all I would say. I do think I'm on the same page as everyone else. We do need a central midfield player. We are crying out for one. I'm a little bit torn with the type of individual that we need. We've had so many different names floating about in the group that we have. Wijnaldum, you know, with the Tanganga and Dembele. We talked about this 3 weeks ago, Rick, on our group, and then all of a sudden there's a story out there today talking about Wijnaldum potentially coming back and so on and so forth. Frank Kessie, it's all kicking off tonight, saying that he's rejected a move to us because he wants to stay until the summer. I look at that positively. If the two clubs have agreed a fee, then something must be moving there. So we must be going in the right direction. And look, did any of us expect Kessie to come in January when he's in a title race with AC Milan? But maybe we get him for free in the summer. That's incredible for Tottenham, right? So I don't know. We definitely need to move some stuff on. I am always the believer that, and this does annoy people, and I'm sorry for this, but if they don't improve our squad, if they don't improve our
there's no point bringing them in.
What's the point in bringing them in? But we're going to bring them in anyway because we're bloodthirsty fans and we need signings. They have to be the right ones, right? They have to be the ones that complement the system that, you know, Adrian's, you know, friend of the show, Adrian said earlier in the comments, change the system then. This is Conte. Conte's system is 4-3, a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2. It's how he plays. Go and have a look at the record books. Everyone knows it's how he plays. He's not going to change the system because we've got Bergwijn in there or whatever, hence, you know, fitting people around. So I think it's really important that we get what he needs. And I really, sorry to waffle on, Mike, but I really loved his post-match interview today because he's holding everybody to account. He's holding the board. He's holding Paratici. He's holding everybody at the club to account. Every time he's asked a transfer question, he says, "Not me. Go and ask the club. Go and ask the club. I've told him what I want. I've told him what I need." I love that in him. But what he's also saying is it's going to take ages. If you think I can fix this in one window, you're having a laugh. So he knows the board are backing him. I personally think he knows that he's got what he needs there. But he's also saying publicly, you better do what we've said that you're going to do. But equally, don't think I'm a magician that I can fix this in one window. Now, if we bring 2 or 3 players, or even 1 or 2 players, or even 3 or 4 or 5 players in the next 9 days, he's saying it can't be fixed straight away. So we need to have patience. He's always said we need patience. He's always said we need time. The problem with that, Rick, and the lads, the listeners and viewers, is we're desperate. We're starved of success. We're desperate for it, and we want it yesterday. So it's a difficult balance. But
it's a real tricky one.
We're expecting a roller coaster. Next 9 days, Spurs, go do some business.
We will see. Well, listen, we'll be with you every step of the way on Last Word on Spurs in the next 7 to 8 days. Listen, Jeff, Leon, been a pleasure having you join us this evening. Jeff, we must ask you, before we close the show, do you think Spurs will get a top 4 finish come the end? We're going to ask you now, putting you on the spot now, Jeff. What do you reckon?
Smashing. Well, I want that. I want it more than anything. And I'd like it to be because we signed 1 or 2 great players that are going to really add to the quality of the squad. Do I? Yeah, you have to say yeah. You have to say yeah. You have to believe. That's what makes it exciting.
Fantastic. Jeff, where can we find you across social media? Where can we find you?
The normal places, and it's just Jeff Brazier.
Lovely having you back on, Jeff. Always a pleasure. Sorry, it's on the back of a defeat, but I say apologies for that. We're looking forward to bring you back on
about that.
In better circumstances. Leon, thank you so much for a real blinding debut. I hope Adama has a good one as you do. Fingers crossed we get him over the line. Where can we find you across the socials, Leon?
Yeah, just at Leon_man. Have a look at me on Twitter. I'm going to try and talk more about football. Sometimes I'll take some time off because...
Oh, we all need that. Well, we would love to take that time off. We can't, unfortunately, but yeah.
It gets a bit much. And we're definitely going to finish top 4, but it depends on Man United, in my view. It depends what United do. If United really kind of turn it around, I think we're in trouble, but I'm not confident they will.
Well, listen, Leon, comments pouring in for you here. Lots of love for you on your first your debut. So thank you so much for joining us. Been a real pleasure. We look forward to having you back on the show with us in the near future. Lee, it's fair to say we have got a big 7 or 8 days to come. Let's give a plug. You've obviously got your new podcast at the moment. Where can we find this new podcast of yours?
Oh yeah, if you follow me at Lee McQueen on screen there, or you follow the business, the YouTube channel to subscribe to is at Phoenix51. The podcast is all about The Apprentice. As you know, The Apprentice is back on live. I was lucky enough to win it all them years ago. So I've got all the ex-winners every single week coming on and reviewing and picking apart what they did well or predominantly what they didn't do so well. So that's happening. It's called In the Line of Hire, and that's you can go and find out on all the socials. But just quickly, right on the transfer window and finishing the top 4.
Yep.
Tottenham will finish in the top 4. We have got a top 5 manager in the world. We have picked up 36 points at halfway point as we talk today. 36 points. We've had 2 managers. One of them was Nuno. We were playing football with not even having a shot on target. Are you having a laugh? And we've still picked up 36 points. We've got a transfer window left, 8 days left. We are going to bring some signings in. Conte's only going to get better. You've got to back yourselves to say, do you know what? We're going to have a better second half of the season than the first half of the season because of Conte. Yep. And we've got 4 games in hand on Chelsea, 2 games in hand on Manchester United, 3 games in hand on West Ham, and one of them games in hand on Arsenal. We've got to play them as well. We're going to finish in the top 4, people. Calm it down. Let's go for it. Come on, Spurs. Here we go.
Here we go. Right. Well, listen, we are going to be back with you guys at tomorrow evening. We're also, firstly, we're live on BBC Sport London with you from 7 till 8. Then we've got myself and Jeremy Brown at the Daily Hotspur. You know, he loves transfers. We've got, listen, a brilliant show to bring to you. We'll be announcing that very soon. That's tomorrow evening, a transfer special. Keep your eyes peeled from that. But of course, from Leon, from Jeff, from Lee, from myself, guys, keep safe, keep well, keep the faith. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Good night.